Hello, dear friends at Cardiac Radio. Here we are. This is an opportunity for us to get together again and talk about what we love to talk about, Spiritism. Why? Because we want to talk about it? No, because we want to share it with you. Spiritism is nourishing. It is the promised consoler. It comes to us to give us new life. As Jesus said to the Samaritan woman, it's the living water. And if you drink it, you shall never go thirsty again. So welcome to Cardiac Radio. We are here in our 11 a.m. session, right? Because we have been doing 11 p.m. and we'll be back very soon. But now it's about a specific topic, studying Spiritism. I know many people who say, "Oh, um, I am spiritual. I have my intuition, my mediumship. I don't need to study anything." But why studying or instructing yourself, ourselves, is important? What does it make a difference in our lives? Does it change anything? Well, according to the gospel, according to Spiritism, there is a passage that Kardec reports to us, the Spirit of Truth, reporting that we should love one another, but instructing ourselves is vital. Why is that so? Is it because our human nature, as humans, we need to boost our reasoning? Finally, Kardec discloses and unveils to us something that puts an end to this conflict of heart and reasoning, which is this reasoned faith, the unshakable faith. No longer will be conflicted about thinking of God, reflecting on His providence, and life as is. We're open wide to feel it and to think of it, to reflect on it, to reason it. In Spiritism, since 1857, when Allan Kardec published the Spirits book, it put an end on this discussion, on the conflicts. Reason and faith finally can be together again. If they were divorced in our society, no longer. They got back together, and as reason and faith are together, we live a life that is truly transformed through the foundation of an unshakable faith. So it's important to boost our reasoning, to expand, I would say as a neuroscientist, our cortical capacity, boosting our decision-making synapses, right? And discernment. As Humberto de Campos reports to us in the book Among Brothers of Other Lands, Spiritism is the light of discernment. How so? Well, we think it is through study as well. And you're invited today to think about it with us, to join us. If you have any questions or comments, share here with us. Share the good news. And we have a friend, Sergio Schickler. Sergio, if I didn't pronounce correctly, you correct me, but I want to introduce Sergio to you. He's the founder of spiritismstudy.org, which has been promoting instruction on Spiritism in very unique formats. And we're going to talk about this and much more. Thank you so much, Sergio, for being with us today at Cardiac Radio.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, to expose a little bit of the work. Don't worry about my name. My name is not important. The
But
only
how do
important
you
my name,
pronounce it correctly, Sergio, please?
it is Sergio Schickler,
Schickler.
but it's similar to the razor blade. But the reason I say the name is important only to the fact of the matter when it brings a little bit of credibility to the project. So much like Allan Kardec, he had to become who he was professionally and intellectually and respected in the circles, to be able to uh, publish the doctrine and be taken seriously. Although, of course, in my lifetime, I don't think I will be able to equal his works in any way, shape, or form. But the only the only little bit I want people to learn about me is just that little bit, the piece of my history that enables them to connect, perhaps, to have a little bit of being relatable to it, and just bring that little bit of credibility. That way, people feel comfortable, I guess, sharing their time with us, because I understand how time is precious and everyone has different priorities. But in light of my journey as a spiritist, because uh, I realize the responsibility that we share on improving oneself. And
But Sergio, let me ask you this. How did you become a spiritist? How did it happen?
so, thank you for asking that, Vanessa. I was actually born in the United States. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island. My parents were here attending Brown University. And at 3 years of age, they decided to move back to Brazil. So I was starting to learn English when they decided to move back, and I spent my formative years, 21 years in Brazil, where I actually in the beginning I had to see a speech therapist to to get back to get the how can I transfer my little known English, to Portuguese pronunciation. So it was a little bit of a struggle pronouncing the
Wow.
R's. But uh, so I was raised in Brazil, and although, of course, in Brazil is somewhat commonplace, spiritism, the spiritism movement, and its presence in the arts. Um, I was never really much interested in it because I did not, as many people nowadays do, I did not put much importance in faith, in religious movements, in organized, religion, because I didn't see much value in it. Uh, so I never approached it. And to be honest, I was um, born and raised in a Jewish family. I actually went to a Jewish school in Brazil, and um, spent a good amount of years learning the Hebrew and all. Never really found no much use for it. But I always felt a little bit, how would I say, in disaccord, in disagreement with the idea of being the chosen people, for example. And that perhaps kind of put me off, approaching, my religion. Uh,
Mm,
so time goes by. I came to America in 1997, and one thing led to another. I joined the Navy. Um, and after many years in the Navy, in 2013, I brought my fiance, Mai, from Brazil, to live here with me. And all that time I was here, I kind of became distanced from the Brazilian community, because, I didn't feel that if I was in the States, I needed to learn how they live, how they speak, what they eat. I wanted to be immersed in it. Um, so I felt that was part of my duty, to be a valued guest, if I could say that, even though I was born here, so I'm an American citizen, but I
mhm,
felt that I have to do more. So, in virtue of her coming here, I figured she's gonna need a support network. She didn't have, any friends. She left her family. I'm the only from my family here. She's the only one from her family. And I decided to find out what was available in the Brazilian community in Tampa Bay that we could benefit from. Could develop a network. And I remember her saying that she was raised in a Spiritism family, even though she didn't practice much. And I started researching, and I found Spiritist societies, and I started contacting them. And as soon as she came, we started frequent attending the studies. So uh, one thing led to another, and I start really getting into reading. I start by reading the spirit book,
Hmm.
and that's how it started. 2013, roughly March 2013.
Ooh, beautiful. What a story. And you know, it's so interesting you're saying this because if you didn't have the opportunity to live there in Brazil, the years you lived there, Spiritism became widespread.
Yes.
So it's almost like as popular as anything else there.
Hmm.
So it became so natural, right? Like
Hmm.
for any of us. Do you think that probably was one of the reasons why you had to be there and it made it easier for you now to gravitate towards studying it and even sharing this study with others?
I do. I don't have the presumption to understand how God works in all His wisdom, but I do tend to believe that there is a providential reason that anything, but of course, there's a little mix between, or I guess, lack of wisdom in applying our own free will and God's free will, and it was what we was predetermined before we incarnated this time around. So, for example, one thing that kind of struck me a little while ago, since you mentioned it, there was the recreation of a soap opera in Brazil called Viagem,
Yes.
and it was in 1994, if I'm not mistaken. And it just happened that that year, that it would have been completely unavoidable to me or pretty much anyone in Brazil to not be exposed to spiritism and perhaps develop some interest in it, seeing a 6 month long soap opera about it, right? It
Hmm.
just happens that in 1994 I spent a whole year in the United States, and I have no idea of that soap opera even being shown until my wife a couple of years ago decided to watch the entirety of the soap opera on YouTube, and I was like, when? I asked, when did that happen? I never seen that.
Uh-huh.
And so I think in some ways I try to rationalize in the providence, and I think so. For example, so Kardec needed to live almost a full life of being a renowned researcher, an author, and educated before he first witnessed and was acquainted with the dancing tables, right? So perhaps in my case, I needed to mature, more until being exposed to spiritism, and for that little seed to take root. I
Yeah.
I, I try to rationalize it, and that's perhaps the best explanation I could find to it.
Yeah. So let me share with those who are getting to know of you and also to contextualize a little better our
Mhm.
discussion. Professionally, you you retired
Correct.
and you used to work for the Navy, the US Navy, right?
Yes.
And now as soon as you retired, you decided to launch this new platform that we call spiritismstudy.org and dedicate a whole lot of your time um, sharing these instructions, the spiritist instructions with others. So, from being acquainted with spiritism,
Hmm.
becoming a spiritism, to advocating for it or sharing the teachings with others, there is
Hmm.
a big leap. What
Yes.
made you go from that point to this other point where you are today?
And I think that will probably be, like, of course, a personal decision, but I think it's a natural consequence of the studying spiritism. Um, as people who are unacquainted with it, it's not it's not an easy read, and it's not a cheap read, but it is a very valuable read. And I I feel that once you read, once you're able to absorb even a little bit of it, you realize that you are indebted, you know, uh, perhaps in my view, because I have 20 years of military service, I do qualify many things in my life as a duty. It's my obligation to do a task to the best of my ability. So I think that we are obligated not just to ourselves, to God, of course, to God, to ourselves, and to our brethren to do the best we can to live in accordance to His laws. But we only gonna find out what the laws are and how to behave once we study, once we educate ourselves, right? So to me, it was like a natural consequence of getting to know the doctrine.
Okay.
Um, and I realized, and this is, of course, I realized in the beginning that as soon as I started planning for my retirement, I knew I was going to have a lot of time and a lot of, perhaps unused or untapped capability, as soon as I retire. And uh, many people say, like, listen, you gotta find something to do. Uh, and it's, of course, it's not just to keep me busy, although it does that, but it's because I felt that much like, as like say, as I'm reading the doctrine, uh, the one who knows more owes more, right?
Yeah.
So if you are given more, and people will usually immediately associate with, if you are rich, and they immediately associate with money.
Yeah.
You should share it. I have like a broader view, and I associate with anything that you have developed over the years. So if I have more time, I will share some of my time. If you were given a very large amount of love and empathy, like my wife, you should share that. If you're giving knowledge, you should share that. So, sorry, not given. If you have the opportunity to accumulate knowledge, share it with others, right? So that's how it worked for me. The leap between being a a student to perhaps or organizer or a facilitator.
Beautiful, Sergio. It's so beautiful. And
Thank you.
it's so inspiring. And we would say, Foster, Brian Foster, one of the hosts at Cardiac Radio, he recently brought you up and had an interview with you. He was also one of the people that told me about you.
Thank you.
And he is recently retired, but he did the reverse. He moved to Brazil, though he's American, and he is working more frequently on spreading spiritism. Though he's living in Brazil, he's doing it in English because he's continued with his mission here. But the big question now
Hmm.
is, Sergio, it's not simple. No matter, I know we are in the United States,
Hmm.
and yet we're moving forward with the English speaking movement.
Hmm.
It has grown quite a lot,
Hmm.
but majority of the spiritists are still Brazilians
Yes.
or Hispanic, and majority of spiritist centers still hold their main meetings in Portuguese. So
Hmm.
the question is, since you speak both languages
Hmm.
and you're comfortable with both, why did you decide to launch the platform in English?
Okay. So part of that, of course, is through the course of my studies, and I'm trying to also kind of rationalize why is the providential reason that we as spiritists found ourselves in the United States. What can we share with them, and how should we behave as guests in their country? So I realized that Brazilians are more than well served in just about any possible way of spiritism study. They have a plethora of lecturers, facilitators. There is a spiritist society in every street corner in Brazil. So it's something that they are well served, and with the possibility, of course, we being able to reach any corner of the world through the internet, Brazilians are well served. I should say that. So I felt, if I have more, and for example, in this case, if I have a little bit of English fluency that is capable of expounding on complex, philosophical questions, which is the doctrine deals with, then I should put my foot forward and I should volunteer to help out those who can't. Uh, and of course, I cannot drag anyone to it, but I do invite, all Brazilians that I'm able to relate to that do take up the challenge of becoming more proficient in English, because to me it's part of our duty, or expectations of, as being citizens, or even a legal immigrant on this country. So we are reaping all the benefits this country provides, so we should be able to contribute as well. And all of this, of course, getting better, more proficient in English or Spiritism will benefit your life, 100-fold. And but more than not, I think that there are so many decades, or perhaps even centuries worth of knowledge of Spiritism in the Brazilian community, but yet it sits unused most of the week, you know, in their heads, you know. And I thought, like, what about all those people, all those Americans, all those Brazilians who are not served, by being close to a Spiritist society, or being able to attend their studies? Because I know, by virtue of us relying solely on volunteer staff, we cannot open as many times as we would like, right? We only open maybe once or twice a week for an hour or so. So I thought, like, why can we not, kind of perhaps use a little bit of Uber mentality, and why cannot I make that car that's idle be able to generate some income? In this case, it would be spiritual income. So why can't I put my knowledge, put my time, available on the internet, and say, listen, I will study with you. And whatever book of the doctrine I'm comfortable with, I will study with you, and I'll help you take the first steps in your education. And soon enough, you'll be able to, walk on your own.
Mm.
That
And
was the idea.
that's beautiful. And it's interesting because in your words, I captured that sense, as you said before, duty,
Yes.
service. And throughout the Spiritist teachings, like goes straight to After Death by Leon Denis,
Hmm.
when he has a chapter that talks about duty and how the elevated spirits are ever more dutiful, whereas there are many people looking forward to rest.
Hmm.
The higher spirits are always saying, what can I do next? How can I serve more? How can I extend these benefits to others? So I think you capture the direction of what these teachings are all about.
Thank
They
you.
are boosting in us this divine capacity to serve, right?
Yes.
But Sergio, I have as a mini break, uh,
Hmm.
we won't go away, but just want to interact a little more with the beautiful people that we have here.
Sure. Absolutely.
Fred from the community, Sol Souza, hello Sol, thank you. She has beautiful comments here. I'm learning Spiritism in English now. It's great, all American people that come my way. I have something nice to say without being really beautiful. And she says, I love to be a spirit, never stop learning. And we have here Betsy. Thank you, Betsy. Big hug to you. Valéria Benfica, saudades.
Hmm.
Big hug. Now, friends, we have a mini poll here. We want you to to respond to this. How often do you study Spiritism? How often do you study Spiritism? Um, is it never, often, or sometimes? If you're watching this, you
Hmm.
have the possibility of typing in your answer so we will be able to know.
Hmm.
Tell us about it. Meanwhile, I want to share with the friends that in the book Thought and Life by Emmanuel, there is this beautiful chapter 4 that talks about instruction. And it says to us right here and now, it has been said that two wings are needed for the human spirit to ascend to God. One is called love, and the other wisdom. Through love, which is above all service to our fellow beings, we're illuminated and made beautiful within, so emitting a reflex of our own virtues that can benefit others. Through wisdom, which begins with the acquisition of knowledge, we gather influences from those who have gone before us towards progress, who send us the reflection of their own greatness, so impelling us towards heaven. Through love, we're able to undertake life. Through wisdom, life increases in value. Mamma mia, Sergio.
Hmm.
While people are watching and replying to this
Hmm.
question, how often do you study Spiritism? Emmanuel summarizes it all. The people who say, oh, I'm spiritual, I don't need to study, the spirits tell me all. It
Hmm.
says acquisition of knowledge changes our lives. Through it, we gather influences from those who have gone before us towards progress, who send us the reflection of their greatness, so impelling us towards heaven. So, acquisition of knowledge boosts this wisdom inside of us. And you have been promoting now Spiritism. I don't know if you know, Sergio, but
Hmm.
in 2008, 2007, when we launched the Spiritism Symposium in the United States in Baltimore,
Hmm.
soon on that very year, when we founded the Spirit Side of Virginia as well, though we're living there, the Spirit Mentors asked us to create a platform of study that we call the Roadmap for the Spiritist Study and Practice,
Hmm.
which is some workbooks leading people to studying and as guidelines, lesson plans for people who are around the world and don't know where to begin.
Hmm.
So from there on, people in Canada, England, Australia, United States, several different states, they started studying it. And then soon after, in 2008, Daniel Santos and I, we transposed that platform into what we called e-spiritism.
Hmm.
And through using a platform that we call Moodle in 2008, we launched it, and many people were studying online. We
Hmm.
had facilitators, and people were studying online. But what I found most interesting in your proposal, if people go to spiritismstudy.org,
Hmm.
is that they have the possibility of having this. We used to have facilitators that could Skype
I see.
their meetings with students,
Uh-huh.
but it was more to reinforce this independent study as well.
Hmm.
So you open this new opportunity of people who want to schedule these short meetings and get some doubts addressed. You want to talk about that possibility for people as well?
Yes, yes. So basically, it was not the first idea when I decided to launch an online platform. It actually started when by virtue of attending our or spirits book studies on Mondays, a lot of wisdom. They started using a method which is, let's cover up the answers as we read the question, and then we ponder, and discuss about what the answer might be, and
Mm.
see if our understanding is in line with what the Spiritist doctrine says. So, um, but sometimes of course, we couldn't, I guess, cover all the answer, or we take a glimpse of it. So I decided to create what is the Spirits Book Study Guide, which basically I took the translation of Kardecpedia with their permission, and I manually remove all the answers to all the questions, and I publish in this format. This is a hardcover. I also have the soft cover, but I publish in this format to furnish to study groups, so they can benefit from it. While conducting this project, I realized, listen, why can I, offer some type of platform online that could pair, like I mentioned, Uber. I could pair the person. who has with the person who doesn't, you know, and it could be one on one. I did as perhaps for me to get acquainted with the possibilities. I did join Daniel Assisi, spiritismonline.org. Uh, I,
Yeah.
I did join his sessions and I participated in many of them and the forums. But I realized there was perhaps a little bit too there were some elements that could not sync together. The time zone differences and other things, and also, of course, in every group effort, some people are going to be benefiting from it, most usually, but there will be two groups of people in either extreme who either are well below the level of the study being conducted or well above it, who will not benefit as such. So I figured that a one-on-one, project could be brought up to speed, and I was trying to devise ways or platforms that could allow me to create such a thing. And I had a couple of volunteers. Brian Foster is. I was actually very very excited when I heard that he was willing to contribute it, and I even developed what I like to call because I would like I say my name is not important, but the seriousness I try to bring to the project is. So I even developed a term of agreement between myself and the volunteers uh, that in black and white it says those are my duties to you and those are your duties to this project. So so they advertise their availability online, they have full control over, and people who don't have or would like to expound on their knowledge of spiritism can book and session with them and talk to them at length about a topic or a book or something they're comfortable with. So uh, that's why I think like we still have a lot of knowledge, let's say, imprisoned or idle in many people's minds, people who are very familiar with the doctrine, but they have not perhaps yet developed the self confidence of the English fluency to be able to transmit this. But I seriously would like to believe, even though with the busy lives we live, uh, how many of us couldn't volunteer anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour a couple of times a week to teach another person who would like to learn, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting you're mentioning that because you have another format that you
Mhm.
propose in spiritismstudy.org that is quite interesting. Kardecatint.
Oh,
It's
that's it.
so
Yes.
interesting. You want to talk a little more about it? It's so invitational.
Thank you. Thank you. This was also brought about, which I like to call this is the third prong of our projects. And I figure it's easy being a spiritist in a spiritist society, right? Just as it's easy being a Christian at church at Sunday. But as soon as you step out of that, what we call a house of worship, uh, no one has any, I guess, expectations on your behavior, right? I like to venture that most people will like to say spiritists. Most of them are Brazilian. Most of them go to work, and perhaps no one in their workplace, none of their coworkers know that they are a spiritist. So they don't have the expectation of behavior from them, and they don't feel that they have that expectation placed on them, right?
Hmm.
So I figure this all this knowledge the doctrine has to offer, it's only useful if you practice, right? So we have to read, then we study, then we have the knowledge, and then we're gonna practice, and eventually we're gonna feel it. But in order for you to practice, you should be practicing with people who are not spiritists, right? You should be practicing your day-to-day
Yeah.
routine with your coworkers. You should be, learning to be forgiven. Learn to be more comprehend other people's plight. So I figure, how can I reach them during their day-to-day routine, during their, uh, let's say, during the opportunities that God creates every day for us to put into practice the role, of behavior that Jesus came to teach. So, ideally, though, if I wasn't attending school, I would like and I would really love to be Kardec at lunch and not after lunch. I like
Yeah.
to be during most people's lunch break, and that way they could actually kind of sit down, and while they're having their lunch, we could discuss about spiritism, and they could perhaps immediately after lunch, when those opportunities present themselves, to be able to be more forgiving, to be more caring, to be more, compassionate, they will utilize that, just gain knowledge. Um, but because I'm going to school, I decided to do Kardec after lunch, and yeah, and I figure right now we've been having a couple of schedule changes, and I apologize for that because it does detract from the idea. The idea is to really be an active and not a passive, effort.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I say that is because, as you just ask a question to our audience, is how often do you study?
Yeah.
You know, just it's not just only how often, but how do you do it? Because if all your efforts are solely passive, if all you're doing is listen to it or watching a video, or you perhaps are not utilizing your brain to the full extent,
Hmm.
um, you have to really study. And when I mean study, I say like when you're reading, you're not just reading the words, you're really thinking about the meaning. You're thinking about all that's not written, all it's in between the lines, all the implications that knowledge that you just got acquainted with has in your day-to-day life. All right. Sometimes not even in your life, but if you're able to perform that mental exercise as to like think like how profound this type of knowledge is, and how much does it affect the whole of human history. So, but of course this is an individual endeavor, and everyone it's tasked with it. You are not able to delegate your moral, intellectual, or spiritual progress to anyone else.
Hmm.
People sometimes perhaps are misled by thinking that, and I like to call that the professional sport or football syndrome. By choosing your team and your team winning the championship, you won. And that's not how it happens. Even if you accept Jesus as the Lord and Savior, He His presence, your acceptance will not save you unless you accept His conduct, His behavior, His caring and loving attitude towards others as something for you to emulate. Then you will become what he came to exemplify.
Exactly. And we we need instruction and love, as Emmanuel says here, and studying is vital. And I'll quote just one more sentence here, two more. He says, "A school is a center of spiritual influence, where the teachers of today continue the task of the instructors of yesterday. A book represents a powerful magnet of attraction, molding emotions and concepts from which are born the great movements of humankind."
Mhm.
Blah, blah, blah. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. There's so much for us to study. And that's the beauty of it all. It reminds me of Chico Xavier in his simplicity, because we're coming to a day and age in which people are making efforts to do the reverse of
Mhm.
the natural one.
Mhm.
Simplicity is vital. And Chico Xavier, in his simplicity, he surrendered his whole capacity to being a channel of these powerful magnets of instruction to humanity that mold our feelings and
Mhm.
change our mindset. The books, more than 462 books. So nowadays, Sergio, many people uh, are coming to Spiritism, and we are in an era of social media. And
Mhm.
as you mentioned, many people are paying attention to what people say.
Mm-hmm.
But we at Cardiac Radio have been deeply committed
Mm-hmm.
to motivating people to getting the books and studying them. So we come as facilitators or catalysts and we say, let's read this book. See how
Mm-hmm.
beautiful it is. See how transformative it is. And then they go and study. I see a trend in the Spiritist movement, especially in Portuguese, where in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil, where speakers are coming and they are taking these ideas as their own and becoming celebrities. We at Cardiac Radio don't vouch for it. As you
Mm-hmm.
said at the beginning, my name really doesn't matter. And in a way, it doesn't matter any of our names. If I'm Vanessa
Yes.
Anseloni, Sergio Schickler, or anybody else, what matters is what's going to last forever. This
Yes.
message, the message needs to come first. Imagine this, Sergio. The other day I was asking a friend, what
Mm-hmm.
if you psychographed a phenomenal book like
Mm-hmm.
Paul and Stephen, a masterpiece, and you received it, typed it in, and gave both the original and the book to the Brazilian Spiritist Federation and continued your work without any demand? Would you be
Mm-hmm.
able to do it? And when I ask this question, people are usually shocked because sometimes they don't realize
Mm-hmm.
what Chico Xavier did.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, we're coming to a moment in which people write books about Spiritism, but these teachings are not ours. Even if I write about it,
Yes.
these ideas didn't come from me. As a scientist
Yes.
myself, we only put our names on something that is original, that we created. When we talk about other people's things, this doesn't belong to us. We're just a parrot talking about it. So when you are doing these works,
Mm-hmm.
I know you often refer first and foremost to Kardec, which is the
Mm-hmm.
foundation, a needed foundation in the English speaking movement overall, not only in the United States, but in many countries where English is the main language, uh, they are yet to know of the foundational studies of Kardec, and of course later the ones that came through Chico Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the the main response from the people who get in touch with your website, spiritismstudy.org? What is their reaction? What are the people uh, that come to the study sessions say?
Mm-hmm. We're still in our infancy, and we have only a few students. I myself had, one that came for a few sessions, and American. And Brian Foster had a few, which I have received at least one review on the website, and they are very welcoming, to have this opportunity. They're very thankful for it because it's something that it's not really easily available, and to contrast what is available is spiritually, though not spiritist. Spiritually in the United States, there is somehow an expectation of income, or reward or something to that effect. If you were instructing someone, be it almost across the board when you're talking about spiritualism, and it's something that I like to point, like right in the beginning, on the website, or perhaps it's in the bottom as a disclaimer. Like, we don't ask for or accept any sort of donations, and like I said, we're not here to promote. I'm not here to promote myself, even though, like I mentioned before, there is a picture of me and my wife. Which, by the way, if anyone thinks anything of me, or admire me in any way, I credit to my wife, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be this path I'm currently in. So I really like to thank her. But the reason I have in the picture
Yeah,
is to provide a little bit of credibility. And they'll say, like, oh, who is this person? Who did this? But the picture in the front is Kardec. And we sometimes read his works but fail to understand how much effort he put into developing it. he didn't psychograph it like Chico did, although it's an extreme amount of work. Both are.
Yeah.
But Chico, I guess, received the message, kind of ready. He just wrote it. So it's kind of unfair for me to say he just wrote it. But Kardec had to, gather input from all over the world and really, organize in a logical sequence. So it was really, really tough. And we sometimes fail to emulate, some of this, some of what Kardec did. Unfortunately, here in the United States, we have not yet received the privilege of watching the movie that was launched in Brazil, Kardec.
Uh,
Hopefully, in the near future, we'll have it because I
Beautiful,
love. Yeah,
beautiful.
it has been.
I watched it. Yeah,
Oh,
I
how
was there on the first day.
nice! How lovely it would be to people to really be try to understand what he voluntarily put himself through. Because once he realized the implications of that discovery, that there is, intelligence outside of matter, he couldn't keep that to himself. He couldn't publish it under his name and say, "This is my discovery." It's like, no, this is the spirit's, knowledge. This is God's law. I'm really gonna create another name to put it, in front of it,
Yeah.
but it's their message, right?
But I have to open a parenthesis here, Sergio.
Sure,
Since the
sure, sure.
days of our love and wisdom, when I go to the website spiritismstudy.org, as you
Sure.
showed on the back cover of the book,
Yes,
I I I love the way you talk about your wife.
thank you.
And why am I emphasizing this? Because you know it we are not alone. Like I
Yes.
talk about my husband Carlos and how much he helps in the translations of many books that have come along
Hmm.
and are the foundation for our studies at Cardiac Radio. I would say, you know, sharing that we're team working from home as well.
Yes.
Because Mia may not be here with us,
Yes.
her face, but
Hmm.
she's your support system. She's the person that she's the person who is walking this pathway with you,
Yes.
like you saw in the movie, Kardec's movie,
Hmm.
portraying beautifully this collaboration between his wife Amélie Gabrielle Boudet and Kardec. It reminds me so much of John Adams and Abigail Adams.
Hmm.
You know, their partnership in this mission in our tasks. So I would say I think it's so important to keep
Hmm.
it human.
Yes, it is. It is a wonderful. I like to say. I like to remind her and others around us how it's once you know the doctrine. It's hard to use this word anymore, privilege, but It kind of feels like it
Yeah.
of being in the environment, in a home that both members are spiritists. Because sometimes during our studies at spiritist centers, we see that there are many couples who are one-sided. There's one spiritist and one non-spiritist, and one Brazilian, one American, or whichever the case may be. And although it creates numerous opportunities for the application of the doctrine, it does at times detract from the full use that could be gained if both are working towards. So if both are rowing this rowboat towards the same objective, you'll make a lot more progress. But
But
I
I have to say it's so beautiful the way you keep it human because you by publishing because I observe the details
mhm,
of the book and the website and it's unique. Uh, I think Kardec comes to us as this person who was married, who was real, like reachable,
mhm,
and he was like an educator, like his wife, and together they worked to build this new era. I know he was not alone, they were not alone, many good spirits,
mhm,
a network of people in two realms, and yet when they joined forces, I think it's promoting this new sense of family for the good. I
mhm.
think we need to revisit it when we are together equally. No matter if you are the face of the studies, Mia is also the heart of it all. And she has been with you, and you always emphasize it. And I see that you express this love for us. For us, it's very important. I know people have a hard time talking about feelings,
Uh-huh.
but I see Jesus as a master who had this new
Oh,
proposal for us.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that is her. And
Ah,
perhaps against her will, I'm gonna show her here so she can say hi.
sure.
But
All right.
this is my.
Hi, Mia.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, welcome. Thank you for being the support system of this beautiful new platform of study.
Thank you for you.
She.
Thank you, Sergio.
Thank you. No, she. If I ask her beforehand, she probably would say
Yeah.
no. So I had to surprise her. But
I-
it is incredibly rewarding to be able to contribute in any sort of way, towards the enlightenment of others. I like to say that, though, it's not that we're trying to convert anyone, by no means, but I like to say, whatever chosen religion you have, please try to be good at it. Try to be better today than you were yesterday. Really study its doctrine, and try to live, to the full extent what is possible, the example that they profess, because in the future we all gonna meet. If we work diligently to improve ourselves, our paths will narrow to the point that we will meet. We'll have the same objective, which is the good of others.
Yeah. And it's interesting you're saying this, Sergio, because many people come to me and say, "Oh, Vanessa, I try so hard, but people badmouth us and they do this. I
Mm-hmm.
feel defeated." And I said, Humberto de Campos reported in the book Relatos da Vida, through
Mm-hmm.
Chico Xavier, what people used to say about Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Past Jesus' discarnation, he was working so hard. And Humberto de Campos tells us about how people were bad mouthing him. But that's what
Mm-hmm.
Jesus told us. So we would say to people, if you are studying Spiritism, practicing Spiritism, inside of the center, outside of the center, and yet people badmouth you, slander you, we would say, it happened to Jesus, it happened to Peter, it happened to Chico Xavier, and it happens to date to Chico Xavier. It happens to Divaldo Franco and many others. Why would it happen to you? Why does it matter? It doesn't matter. What people think, they don't know your life, they don't know your decisions. What we know is this:
Mm-hmm.
if you are a fruitful tree, the fruits are nourishing people, and it speaks louder. Your works speak louder than what people say about you. So, silence and work. And
Mm-hmm.
silence, we say, silence in the sense we don't need to battle against and go forward. And I am saying this because many people are discouraged
Mm-hmm.
engaging in being more active in
Mm-hmm.
disseminating the teachings or sharing them because they feel pressured by how people see them or
I,
how we are not coherent yet. Only Jesus was the coherent master. We're striving to get to this so-called coherence, and we need to forgive ourselves for it. We need to
yes.
forgive others and go on, right, Sergio?
Yes, and I like, as you point out in the beginning, the calling of spiritists love one another and educate ourselves. Um, I like to say that for you to be able to love one another, first you have to love yourself, right? And once you love yourself, you are not delegating the value, of self to someone else. Because really, I think it perhaps is what people feel, that once you're getting, slander, uh, you feel that your worth has diminished, and that's not real. That's not true, right? It's just an opinion, and that person is entitled to her opinion. But who am I to feel in any type of indignation if Jesus went to the cross willingly, right? So we just sometimes had to kind of let down our guard and accept whatever personal attacks may come, but the doctrine will always survive. His laws will survive, and our work towards its improvement will survive too. But I have to say that because our stay here is so short, there are many endeavors that we're going to take part of it, which we're going to do nothing more than perhaps taking that little seed from the packet and put it on the ground. We
Hmm.
may never see it sprout, but we're doing what we're tasked to do, and someone else will come after us and pour water on it and make sure it receives, its due sunlight and be taken care and will grow and provide fruits, right? But it's not about me reaping the fruits personally, because
Oh,
it's about me sharing the possibility of a tree growing up and and multiplying.
yeah. It's beautiful because in the poll that we had, many people said they are the ones that are watching us. They are often studying spiritism, and I have a few comments here from friends. Saul Souza from Connecticut is saying, "Thank you, Saul." She's sharing several comments like we need to practice spiritism with people, like you said, Sergio, beyond the spiritist center,
Yes.
and she says sometimes we don't have the opportunity to be trained as mediums, but we need to practice that sacred mediumship every day. And Rihanna, thank you, Rihanna from South Africa. She says, "Hi everyone. At first, we thought we should only work on sharing spiritism in Africans and translate as many books and sharing as much as we could. But the plan behind that was for us to learn English as well. And now we see more English speaking South Africans interested in spiritism, and we can more easily share and talk better about it. You see the beauty of this community. That's one of the things that we like the most about Spiritism. Jesus said, win friends. And with
Mhm.
Spiritism, we're making new friends. We're expanding. It's the law of society, right, Sergio?
Yes, and it's part of our efforts, of course, in order for us to develop, uh, intellectually, morally, and spiritually. We have to, I like to say, as a spiritist, we have to live with a healthy amount of discomfort, and that discomfort is both the fact that I'm not getting the dues that I should, and that's just you ego talking, but the other discomfort is I'm not doing as much as I should or as I could. And but like I say, I like to say that it must be a healthy level of discomfort, which always invites you to produce more, to share more.
Yeah, you said it all. Sharing. These teachings are not ours. And, at the end of the chapter that we read in Southern Life, chapter 4 on instruction, Emmanuel says, it is our responsibility to always study
Hmm.
and make the best choices
Yes.
so that our ideas and examples may reflect the ideas and examples of the superior spirits of light. So it's responsibility to
Yes.
study. It's part of the divine design that we develop as co-creators,
Hmm.
where we are being called constantly to expand, to
Yes.
grow, and to progress. We cannot stay stagnated, right,
Yes.
Sergio?
Yes. And I see some people perhaps they hesitate in applying, let's say, applying their spiritual capital, into a chosen faith or leader, because they are afraid of, what if I make the mistake? What if I no choose the wrong path? It's like, don't you worry, because God is in command, and it will be toward your benefit, for your betterment. If Even if you make a mistake, that you recognize it and you correct your path. So there is nothing that we can do, but people have to understand this. There is absolutely nothing that we can do that will derail God's plans.
Yeah,
Absolutely nothing. We can derail our own plans,
yeah,
but once again, the expectation we have of success in this life, it's biased and it's incomplete.
yeah.
So we have to understand that His plan is perfect. We just have to agree with it sometimes and like, okay, God's in command, and he, once we reach the end, all will be right.
Beautiful. Sergio, we want to share with people
Yes.
spiritismstudy.org. So,
Hmm.
recommending friends go there, join in. And the good news, the good news is that soon,
Hmm.
soon Sergio will be a cardiac radio
Hmm.
doing at least one session a week
Hmm.
of cardiac after lunch.
Thank you.
Right, Sergio?
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really, and remember, just remind the audience, and once you share, the Spiritism study is not solely for the student, for the person who like to, to receive, but it's also, and mainly, perhaps I would say, it's for the one who like to share. We need to enlist volunteers as well. So please feel free to ask me questions about the one-on-one sessions. You can ask questions about the Kardec after lunch if you like to replicate it. And by the way, the study guide, sorry, the study aid for Spirit's book studies, it's free of charge. I print them out of my own pocket, and I will send to Spiritist study groups on my own, of course, but I can only afford so many a month. But I would like for those who are interested to try it out, and see if your perception of the Spirit's book doesn't change a bit. It doesn't engage you more into actually thinking what the answer may be, because really, when I start doing this, once I open up the first printed copy, I was like, I had the realization. I was like, how how the questions that we have regarding life are the same, right? Throughout all the faiths. The difference is the vocabulary, the terminology we use in the answers. Some people say the salvation is red, other people say salvation is white, or some people salvation is blue. My wife recently posted a comment on Facebook. It says, uh, "No, religion, spirituality is like a bottle with the liquid inside. We are all fighting about the label on the bottle, but forgetting to drink the liquid, right?" So it's just like say part of this. What I feel it's my duty to do more with the time that God has given me and the ability that I have to share some of my knowledge and some of my funds with others who like a little push to start on their own.
This is a happy day. Yay. I have to say, oh, happy day for the friends who are watching us. It's a happy day because whenever we have more friends joining forces, fulfilling their task on earth, we're stronger together, friends. So thank you, Sergio. Beautiful couple, Sergio and Mia. Looking forward to meeting you guys in person soon.
Yes.
And Sergio, we're very thankful for your time. Though it's God's time, but you had a voice. You said, I'm going to use for it. Good
Thank you.
job. We congratulate you.
Thank
We
you.
encourage you. We support you, and we are happy that we're all together in this. We look forward to establishing the starting date of the studies at Kardec Radio with you as well. So people who are in the middle of their day have an opportunity to think and reflect about these teachings that are
Yes.
truly transformative. What would be your final comments today for those who are watching us?
So I would like to just use this time to give thanks, first of all, to you and all the people who make Kardec Radio possible. I know it's a work of heart, a work of faith, and it has been ongoing for many, many years. I also like to thank Brian Foster for having providing with the trust and confidence to become a volunteer in the project. All the ones who have been supporting on Facebook, but like I said, above all, my wife, uh, my family in Brazil, and the Spiritist centers here in the United States. There uh, took us in and provided the environment for us to grow. So, Love and Wisdom of Largo, Florida, Tampa Spiritist Center of André Luiz, and also Seeds of Love in Jacksonville, and our friends in Orlando, Plenitude, and also we have friends down in Fort Myers. So thank you for all those who, like I said, provide just a little bit of support or trust in my humble ability to share a little bit of the consolation that Jesus came to bring.
Beautiful. Sergio, we look forward to your sessions here at Cardiac Radio and to much
Thank you.
more collaboration that is just beginning. And
Thank you.
friends, if you want to know more, spiritismstudy.org. A big hug
Mhm.
to you, to Mia. Thank you so much, Sergio.
Thank
Until
you. Thank you,
next time,
Vanessa.
okay?
God
All
bless.
right,
Thank you.
thank you. So, friends, this is it. Instruction, as Emmanuel said, is vital. I will repeat because the wisdom from above knows it all. Emmanuel, a direct um, instructor of humanity from Jesus to us, says it's our responsibility to always study and make the best choices so that our ideas and examples may reflect the ideas and examples of the superior spirits of light. There's so much to do, but these are good news because we always have more to know, more to experience, but we never do it alone. We have this network, this teamwork effort in both realms.
Mhm.
So now we pass the word to you, friends, wherever you are in the world, do your share. Not only study, but share it as well. So until next time, and remember July 4th, Cardiac Radio is turning 80 years. 8 years! And we are going to celebrate by having 8 straight hours or more,
Wow.
maybe more, but minimum 8 hours of live broadcasting with several hosts at Cardiac Radio here, starting at 8 a.m. until maybe 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be more than 8 hours, but
Mhm.
minimum of 8 hours. So join us. Mark your calendar. Thursday, July 4th. We'll be back with you with a special celebration where hosts at Cardiac Radio will be leading live sessions continuously. Until then, we hope you study a little more and share even more. Big hug to you, and until next time.